What would you do if the man everyone feared told you his darkest secret? The moment I learned the secret of the man everyone feared, I also learned my own fate. He took a deep breath, and as his eyes glowed like dark stones in the lighter's flame, he said, "They killed my son." The silence that fell upon me was actually the sound of a scream in my ears. The whole town knew him as a righteous hero who dispensed justice. I, however, was now wondering if I had the strength to carry a lie. What would this man, who came to my little shop when the city was plunged into darkness and no one else dared, do to me if he confessed his crime? Can you imagine? Would he believe me, or would he bury me along with my secret? Unfortunately, the second option seemed more likely. That night, the air smelled of sharp earth and wet asphalt after the rain. His name was Silas. He had broad shoulders. His gaze was sharp enough to pierce through someone. He told me his story from beginning to end. He said his son's death was no accident, that it was the work of one of the town's most respectable families. There was no proof, only a father's pain, hardened over the years. Clearly, he wanted revenge deep down. "I'll take everything they have," he said. His voice trembled like a knife. I understood that something was going through his mind. "All you have to do is close your eyes and pretend you heard nothing," he said, but the question was, could I do that? Did justice deserve to be burned to ashes in a man's fire of vengeance? Silas's plan was flawless. His plan would slowly, insidiously, eat away at their lives. Reputation, wealth, family, everything you could think of. When the first step was taken, I was looking out the window. In the distance, I heard a police siren. Something stirred inside me. Would his victory be the grave of my conscience? Then came an unexpected twist. I realized Silas had misremembered a detail about his son's death. The yellowed pages of an old newspaper clipping in the village stated that there had been a hurricane warning the night the incident occurred. Silas, however, had described it to me as a moonlit, calm night. Could this small crack shake the entire story? Did pain distort memory that much? Or was everything he told me part of a bigger lie? The conflict grew with every step. One morning, the youngest son of the family targeted by Silas appeared at my shop door. He was barely 18, and his eyes were not those of the monster Silas described, but those of a frightened child. "My father used to be very good friends with him," he said. His voice was anxious and fearful. At that moment, I didn't know what had happened, what had changed. I saw the human face of both sides. I was caught between the two of them. The risk was increasing exponentially. Silas seemed to want to test the trust he had in me. He gave me a small task. My task was to deliver an envelope that appeared harmless to the father of the family he had targeted. The weight of the envelope and the sound of metal inside made me feel sick. It was a silent, odorless, deadly threat. If I did this, I would no longer be just a spectator, but an accomplice. If I didn't, I was afraid to imagine what Silas would do to me. What would you have done? Would you have followed a man you believed to be right, or dragged innocent people into the mire? Or would you have risked becoming a monster yourself to avoid creating one? I saw Silas's weakness without realizing it at first. His voice faltered for a moment as he described his son's old baseball glove, and he quickly looked away. That fragile moment reminded me that he was just a man shaped by pain. Was this a weakness I could use to make him abandon his plan, or was it fuel that made him even more dangerous? Everything came to a head the night I had to deliver the envelope. I went to the meeting place, an old warehouse in the town's abandoned harbor. The air smelled of rotten seaweed and rusty metal. Moonlight seeped through broken windows, casting long shadows. I stood at the door. I glanced around. Then I looked at the envelope in my hand. It felt as heavy as lead. The conflict inside me was so intense that I thought the sound of my heartbeat could be heard from outside. I thought long and hard at that moment. Was I doing the right thing or the wrong thing? Should I do it or not? Just as I was about to take a step, I heard footsteps behind me. It wasn't Silas. Standing in front of me was Leon, the father of the target family, holding a photograph. His face was sad and weary. He looked at me for a long time. "I knew," he said. "I knew Silas would reach me. But I didn't expect him to tell you." He held the photograph out in front of me. Young Silas and Leon were smiling, shoulder to shoulder. Behind them was a child who looked very much like the son Silas claimed to have lost. Leon's eyes filled with tears. It wasn't the son he lost that night. Years after losing him, he severed all ties with me. He couldn't finish his sentence. There was a movement in the darkness at the other end of the warehouse. Silas was advancing step by step from within the shadows. There was neither anger nor sadness on his face, only an icy, empty expression. He stared at Leon for a long time. Then he turned and stared at me for a long time. I was still holding the envelope. I didn't know what to say. Silas asked, "Did you give it to him?" His voice was so flat and cold that I shivered. Fear entered my heart. I couldn't say no, I couldn't say yes either. I could only breathe. Leon began, "Enough, Silas, our son." Just then, I saw Silas reach into his coat. Leon's eyes widened. I stood between the two men, waiting for the word that would bring history and destruction. Silas pulled out not a gun from his coat, but a tattered letter. I was very surprised. I could barely make out the childish handwriting on the letter in the moonlight. It said, "Dad." Silas held the letter out towards Leon and spoke for the first time, his voice cracking. "You wrote this, didn't you? You were the one who told him I never loved him." Leon, breathless. "No, it wasn't him," he said. Something broke on Silas's face. Then WHO. At that moment, a third silhouette appeared at the entrance to the warehouse. The one who knew the truth, who started it all, who had been hiding for years. The light from the street lamp filtering in illuminated the newcomer's face. It was Silas's wife, whom he had believed dead for years. Her eyes were like those of his lost son. "Hello, Silas," she said. Her voice dripped with venom. "Your revenge is misplaced." Because I was the only one at the harbor that night, the letter fell from Silas's hand. His world shattered in that moment. As the only witness to this truth, I was now his greatest threat. The woman turned her eyes to me. "You know it too." Silas slowly turned to me. That blank expression had given way to pure, unadulterated determination. My survival instinct screamed. Should I run or choose a side in the midst of this ruin? The woman reached for her coat. Silas stirred. The envelope was still clammy in my palm. I was the point of their gaze. There was nowhere to run. One of their secrets would be my grave. Whatever step I took, everything had changed now. Silas was broken. The woman moved towards him. I backed away. The real ending of this revenge story was now beginning. As Silas turned to leave, he said, "Don't tell anyone my secret." Everything he had told me would never be revealed. Because some secrets are buried with their owner. This secret would be buried with me. While he thought he had devised a flawless plan for revenge, Silas was unaware that he had actually made a mistake. His son's death was a secret from his wife. Silas might devise his next plan for his ex-wife, too. You think Silas will devise another plan for revenge?